evening and welcome to Live TV. You are watching Talk With. My name is Kamota Mayondi, and tonight on Talk With, we talk with Peter SINKAMBA, who is the president of the Green Party, and tonight's conversation is around the cultivation of marijuana and the future of the Green Party. Good evening, Mr. SINKAMBA. Lovely to have you on Talk With.
Good evening, Kamota, and
Yes.
it's a pleasure being here today.
Thank you. So I'm excited to speak with you about marijuana cultivation and the future of the Green Party. So I think we'll get right into it. So what are the benefits of cultivating marijuana and who stands to benefit from it?
Well, it depends from which angle you want to look at it.
Right.
If you want to look at it from the national point of view, you agree with me that our economy is in total shambles because of various factors. One of them is the almost depletion of our minerals, where most of our minerals now are gone. You look at what's happening on the copper belt. We have, for example, KCM is under liquidation. Mopani is care and maintenance. We have Chambishi Metals is also and care and maintenance, Chibuluma, Luansha copper mines. So you understand from the 60s that the economic mainstay of Zambia was mining. So at the moment, the mining is performing very, very badly as a sector, economic sector. So if we can find an alternative to mining, I think the nation benefits. That's the first beneficiary, government of the Republic of Zambia, in terms of the fiscus, in terms of the GDP. We should be able to benefit big time. I'll come to the figures at some point.
Yes.
The second beneficiary is the entrepreneur. We call them hempreneurs.
I like that term.
These are the youths that are going to participate in this business from various angles. Some of them would want to participate as cultivators, others as processors, others manufacturers, others looking at security issues, others looking at finance issues. So there are various categories that they are going to participate in. And in terms of the youth in this country, they constitute about 65% of the population.
Right. We are a youthful population.
Yes, yeah, and out of that population, which is almost 10 to 12 million, under a million of them are employed in a beneficial activity.
Gainful employment.
Gainful employment. Otherwise, the majority of them have nothing to do. So if we can draw about 2 million youths into this business, we are talking about the youth now benefiting.
So it's a youth-driven focus that you have with regard to the benefits of, well, of course, there is the fact that this would be beneficial to the entire economy in terms of diversifying, but also help empower youths in essence. Which takes me back, when we think of diversifying the economy, people have said, okay, let's try go agriculture. Of course, when you look at hemp, it is in part agriculture because they'll be cultivating, am I correct?
Yeah.
And processing.
Yeah.
But why not tourism? Why just marijuana?
Okay, if you want to undertake any business and you are serious about doing business, you must look at the returns on investment.
Spoken like a true entrepreneur that you are.
You can choose to be a marketeer yourself today, to be selling tomatoes at the Sokoni market or at the Soweto market. You can choose to work for this TV station. You can choose to work as a banker. You can choose to work as some entrepreneur or hempreneur who's going to make some money. So what matters most is how much are you going to make out of it. So when you look at the agriculture sector, there is what we call high value crops.
Right.
And one of the crops that is known to be a high value crop in this country, in the whole world, is the cannabis business. It's a very high value crop where it is estimated that per hectare, when you go into especially the medicinal one, you make and recreational one, you make not less than 4.7.
Sorry, just clarify, medicinal or recreational?
Yes.
Which one are we looking at now?
So, first of all, I want to give you the general picture.
Okay.
Then you come to
narrow it down.
Yes.
All right.
So we're talking about $4.7 million per hectare. Maize gives you $210 per hectare. Now, come on.
The numbers speak for themselves.
Do you go for $4.7 million, or do you go for $210?
Right.
You understand? So for us, as a Green Party, we say, look, let's think outside the box. Let's forget about this nonsense of maize, this poor man's crop, which we have grown for the last 50 donkey years, and it's not helping.
So you feel it's not working?
It doesn't add up. Now, coming to tourism also. Tourism, we don't appear to understand what tourism is all about.
Okay. What is tourism really about?
People, I see people say, oh, we've got so many waterfalls, right, so tourists are going to come. Oh, we've got so many wildlife,
fauna, flora, trees.
So what tourists are going to come? They don't come like that. Tourists now believe in adventure kind of tourism, adventure type. You must do something which must be attractive. You understand? For example, Zambia, if you say we have elephants, there are so many countries around the world with elephants. Some of them just roaming the streets. Go to India. You understand? So you could just say we have elephants is not good enough. You must come up with innovation.
Packages?
Packages,
or
for example.
Package it.
Yes, such that it is unique. For example, Zambia is one of the few countries in the world endowed with the hippo. Now, the hippo is a very, very peculiar animal. You can call yourselves as Hippoland. Maybe you establish South Rwangwa as Hippoland. It's an adventure area for hippos, where tourists, if they come, they can even jump on the backs of hippos as a ride. You understand? Something which is so unique. Maybe you're crisscrossing with the crocodiles. You understand? Something like that.
Like think outside the box.
There's thinking outside the box. That's what you need to do. So when you come on the package and say, Zambia, we've got Hippoland, and Hippoland, this is what happens. Then you show people, this is it. You see what happens. Okay, we've tried in Livingston that jumping, bungee jumping, right,
flying over the fall.
But you come and jump once, then what happens next? Where else do you go? Nothing. You understand? So you need to have a lot of packages, and that's why South Africa has taken advantage of our failure to think outside the box, where, for example, they will package various activities: Cape Town, Durban, Mpumalanga. There are so many. So if a tourist comes, then they give that person a package, including Victoria Falls as the last point. So it's advertised as a package for South Africa. So these guys flying into Livingston and back, they even stay in those hotels. There's nothing that we're getting at the end of the day, because that's a package for South Africa. So we need to repackage what we're talking about. And so when we're going to say tourism, which tourism really are you talking about? I've traveled around the world, and I mean, reside in all continents, and I've seen what tourism can be. It's not this manga thing we have around.
So I like how you've broken down tourism and what it should look like. So marijuana clearly you feel is more beneficial economically for us to venture into. So making all this money from marijuana would be great as we cultivate it. So you would essentially advise farmers to venture out and from crops like maize or tomato and get into the cultivation of marijuana.
Well, the way we have
possible.
packaged it ourselves is
Right.
that marijuana is going, or hemp, or cannabis. You are going to grow it. It will not be like the only crop. It will be what we call the cash crop.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, our biggest problem is that
It will be the cash cow?
Yes, exactly. You know, there are crops that you grow for feeding, and crops that you grow to make money. Now, our problem with our farmers is that they mistake maize for a cash crop, and at the end of the day, they become impoverished in that manner.
Do you feel this is why we have so much drama with FRA and farmers?
Exactly. Because you have this FRA, which is going to depend on government to be granted funds to buy
The
maize from the farmers
at a fixed price.
at a fixed price.
Which the farmers are often not happy
You don't
with.
look at the cost implications for that maize in terms to grow it. But at the end of the day, you pay this farmer. In fact, you even pay them the following year. You understand? And this is a kind of crop which takes you not less than 10 months to grow. Because
it's high maintenance.
You know, it takes it's labor intensive, so much labor intensive, and you get nothing at the end of the day. Because you know the farmers, they start around May clearing their crop. You understand? And the field, they start May, June, July. By September, October, they are ready. Some of them start even planting. Then they start weeding December, January, February. Then it may start drying up.
What's the life? What's the cycle of the hemp plant?
Cannabis is only 16 weeks. 16 weeks. You're talking about 4 months. You are done.
To turn a profit.
Then you are done. You understand? And it's not going to be big fields for everyone. If you're just going to do a hectare, and maybe for a hemp, and then you do 2, 3 for maize if you want to be eating maize. Because really, for me, even this eating of maize, maize, like I've always said.
You don't eat much in Shima.
I do, but you see, maize is a poor man's crop. You know, it's what we call stock feed, which is supposed to be for pigs and cows and stuff like that. Although you I know Kamata, you enjoy it. But
I think you can tell that I'm not very pleased. We are slandering
but
Shima.
You see, in Shima, Shima, first of all, it was never our main.
That's a very interesting conversation.
No, it was never.
It came with our colonizers.
Yes, the slave traders.
Yeah, the Portuguese.
Yes, the traders. Yes, they brought it in, and then for some reason we have become brainwashed, and we think this is what to eat.
That's true.
But anyway,
steer the conversation back to
anyway, we can still eat quite a lot of other nutritious foods, which should be able to make people have very healthy minds and
bodies and nourishment.
Yes, and do great things. But unfortunately, we have made them think that they're eating Shima, and it's not good for our health, really.
That is true.
You know
that one we can agree.
So, and that's why we say, I think let's think outside the box. Let's do other things, which should be able to give us sufficient money, you know. And then we should be able to eat the other food which is good.
Okay.
And you know, like I've always said, I've done it before where I invite my villagers. They come home. Maybe we are 10 around the table. Then we have Shima there, rice and eat my goodies. Down the goodies, Then we start eating. None of them will touch Shima.
Because they've had...
because you see, and it's a natural process. You will not tell them. And even on their own, they'll just find themselves moving away from but coming back to our Mariana story,
yes.
We want to make sure that people have choices.
Okay.
You know, choices in terms of health, facilities, education, what food they eat, and so on and so forth. Now, for people to have choices, they need to have very good disposable income.
Right.
You understand? And that's why you find that these people who have very good disposable income are able to have a good choice of cars, a good choice of hospitals to go to,
Right.
a good choice
financial
of
empowerment brings options.
Yes.
You can choose
so,
this or that.
So, but unfortunately, it's a small group, a tiny group that is which has that kind of choice. And unfortunately, most of them is from corruption, and that's the sad part of it. But people must be able to make money from their own innovation, from their own sweat, and they should be able to live decently.
Okay.
You understand? So we want that kind of life. And this hemp program, which we are trying to
would
put in place,
empower people
yes,
to have options.
Can you imagine if in this economy we pump in $36 billion? Can you just imagine? Just come to think of it. When your budget is only about $5 billion, now you make 7 times or 6 times as much, and then the generators of that money are the villagers, the youths. So what are you doing? You are putting money into people's pockets. You know what I'm saying? Serious money into people's pockets in a practical way. Because you can put money into people's pockets through corruption. I don't think that's sustainable.
Or a non-sustainable way.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Right. Well, I think it would be interesting now to open our text line. I'm sure people have a lot to say. So if you've just joined us, you are watching Talk With, and tonight we're talking with Peter SINKAMBA, who is the president of the Green Party. And our conversation tonight is around the cultivation of marijuana and the future of the Green Party. My name is Kamwata Mayondi, who are hosting you tonight. If you'd like to reach us, the number is 0977-599-547. The number is appearing at the bottom of the screen. So, Mr. SINKAMBA, you've given us the numbers to say that from a hectare of marijuana, you get 4.7 million as opposed to
dollars, not kwacha.
Yes, dollars, as opposed to a measly $210 a hectare when it comes to maize, which you have referred to as a poor man's crop. So, cultivating marijuana sounds good in terms of the numbers and that type of thing, but we cannot deny that there would be potentially some negative effects of the cultivation of marijuana. For example, are we growing it whether we're growing it for medicinal or recreational, how do you make sure that the environment in which you're doing this is secure enough to not have any negative impact of that?
Well, it's true. If people consume or abuse cannabis, especially the one which has got high THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, there's the potential for people to have side effects in terms of health. But in any case, those effects are not as bad as that of alcohol and several other foods that people consume. But nevertheless, we are mindful that a society must be free of all these side effects. And that's why we have tried to come in 2 different ways. The first approach is that we do the hemp type of cannabis. The hemp is a type of cannabis which has low THC, yes, such that even if you take that one and you start smoking from morning up to sunset, nothing happens to you because it has no effects.
Okay.
Psychotropic effects which affect you.
Okay, so now before you...
In other words, in Chinyanja is what they used to call mangwala for So that one is better used for industrial applications.
Okay, so now which brings me to the next question. Help us understand hemp, marijuana, cannabis. Are these different things? Are they different? You've talked about the THC content. So you've talked about industrial use marijuana or cannabis. So just help us understand the differences. And when we say cultivated, which one would be best? Okay,
marijuana is the general term for everything put together. But within that marijuana, there are types of cannabis. There's the indica type and the sativa type. and these types of cannabis, the sativa one, you can have THC which is low. Now, the THC which is low, then you can use now the leaves, you can use the stem, you can use the roots.
So it's
to
100%
yes, use as biomass, which can be used for various aspects. You extract oil from there, the CBD oil. It has its various applications, pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and so on and so forth. Then the biomass which remains, the fiber which remains, it has various applications. You can use that to replace cotton. For textile applications. You can use that for paper production. You can use that for various other applications, to have the canvas shoes, those boots for military, the ones which they call the uniform, desert, the desert type, which the boys now are wearing, or the American soldiers. So that type of boots you can manufacture. So you can use it to manufacture bricks.
So essentially,
hempcrete.
This is it's a crop that has multiple uses.
Multiple applications.
Right.
And that's why if you're talking about industrialization, and we laugh at our colleagues, they talk about no industrialization without a strategy. Now, if you're talking about industrialization, there is no crop that can beat marijuana for industrialization, because out of that you can have a revival of all your textile industries in the country. We used to have Mulungushi textiles, Kafue textiles, Livingstone textiles, so many textile industries, but therefore, why? Because production of cotton has been an issue, and it has had its own side effects on the soils and on the populations that have been. So we can replace that cotton
with
the hemp fiber, and then we have all these industries up and running. So we used to have here in Lusaka, we used to have Interchem, which used to manufacture various types of creams. Nice creams for ladies, and those days, if a lady didn't have a bottle of intensive care, it was called what? Elite intensive care, then this lady had.
She was not she was not living
well. So we can revive all that kind of
industry. So industry revitalization is possible. Hemp. So I like that you've just broadened the fact that, look, it's not just the one thing, because marijuana or cannabis seems to have a bad reputation because people just think smoking, and essentially when people think Green Party, they just think of somebody who's probably smoking marijuana and that type of thing. Which brings me to Zambia as a Christian nation and what the Green Party essentially is pushing forward. How do you reconcile our spirituality or our religious stance with what it is that the Green Party represents?
Okay. Now, I think you need to understand the background, why it has been painted black, this crop. You may wish to know that actually in the US, from the 1800s, what was banned was alcohol. Cannabis was illegal. All the first presidents, the first 5 presidents of the US, they used to be hemp growers. That was their mainstay. They made their money from cannabis, from marijuana. You understand? And most senators, most House representatives were actually into hemp. Now, somewhere around 1916, 1920, thereabout, there was lobbying by the alcohol producers to ban marijuana.
Right.
And what they did was they said this marijuana is being used by our slaves to try and please our women. So we must ban it because it is creating problems for us. And started manufacturing stories about it, such that they had to create the Drug Enforcement Agency and put one of the alcohol proponents as the head. And this fellow between 1920 and 1930 was able to turn around the perception.
So it was
so this
driven
is where
by social as well as financial motivation,
such that the alcohol producers now had to pump in a lot of money to make sure that Congress
pushed
the bills which banned, and also Senate was also in that kind of arrangement, and we have that situation. Now, at the moment, the biggest pushers are pharmaceutical industries. They are sponsoring bills sponsoring bills to make sure that cannabis doesn't come out, because cannabis is a threat to most of these conventional medicine producers.
Because there's medicinal marijuana.
Yes. So they really want to make sure it is, and they've infiltrated.
Pharmaceuticals is extremely political with regard to profits.
Yes, they pump in a lot of money to make sure the president in the US and all these countries which matter support the agenda.
And marijuana isn't patented. You can't say that I've created it. Unlike drugs, how profits
so it's terrible. So such that they have even infiltrated in the World Health Organization, such that that institution will always want to sit on the legalization issues to turn around. Now, coming back to Christianity, the issue brought in the Christianity, there is absolutely no contradiction between cannabis and Christianity. Number one, these drugs, these plants called the marijuana plants, sativa, indica, and whatever, they are a creation of God. You understand? They were created by God. And there is no way God would have created something which is...
So we're going back to, and he made creation and looked at it and said it was good.
So God knew this is good for you, because whatever God created is good for you. And God, in his unleashing the message, said, I have created all these things for your beneficial use. So where is the contradiction? Now, if you go to the Bible itself, you read the Bible, not even a single verse will talk about cannabis as being a cursed plant. Nowhere. You read your Old Testament, you read your New Testament, not a single verse. So whatever people are talking about cannabis, and it's just they are just the stooges of the same American
the history of the bad reputation.
Because what they did was they infiltrated various institutions to preach against this crop, such that it must be made
essentially
very, very bad.
You feel that it's a stigmatized crop.
Exactly, for a purpose. Because can you imagine, if you're going to use cannabis to heal you, what is unchristian about that? Come on, today you are sick, you have cancer. I give you cannabis and you are healed. Where is the sin? In fact, by so doing, I'm promoting what? The word of God. Because Jesus' mission was to heal the sick. That was the mission of Jesus, healing the sick. Now, if I'm going to use this crop to heal the sick, where is a sin?
Right. So on
And
that
then,
note,
and then,
uh-huh.
you know, and then I need to add a little bit.
Okay, before
And
we go to that note, you may go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Sinkamba.
yeah, you know, in this country, you'd find that a number of drugs that are already in circulation have been manufactured from cannabis. For example, the ARVs, they have been manufactured from cannabis. And some of these pastors and priests that who stand on the pulpit and talk about cannabis, most of them or some of them are on ARVs.
Well, on that slightly controversial note, if you've joined us, we're on Talk With, and we're talking with Mr. Peter Sinkamba, who is the president of the Green Party, and the conversation tonight is on the cultivation of marijuana and the future of the Green Party. Go ahead with that thought. Yes.
Yes. So for us, really, we think that there's just a stigmatization of this crop, which is supposed to be a money spin. And now, even our colleagues in the West, they've realized that if Africa gets onto this, then they'll come out of their poverty. But then it means that we will not be borrowing from them. So meaning that it's for them, they're looking at the economic impacts which will be adverse to them because we will not be borrowing from them anymore. You understand? So they would want to sit on it. So
do these sometimes almost feel like conspiracy theories?
It is actually. It is. It is. Because if you look at the 1930s, for example, here's a situation. You know, most of those wars that we fought, the First World Wars, yes, hemp was the biggest actually.
Financer?
Yes, of the war, to help the armies win wars. And also, it was helping them to have the uniform, it was helping them to have the boots, it was helping them for the ships to anchor, you know, those ropes which they used to anchor the ships.
Yes.
And the various materials for those ships which they were using.
So basically going back to the example of fibers.
Yes. So, and then what they do, they had to legalize again cannabis for the war. They called it hemp for war, 1935. 1939.
You're quite
hemp
a
for
historian.
War. You understand? Hemp for, and they started now manufacturing big time to support their soldiers around the world. And then after the war, they come back again. Okay, let's ban it. The alcohol guys again take over. You understand? So this been that kind of situation, really, where I think we need to be real.
Right.
Let's be real about ourselves.
With regard to, you talked about lobbying, and you gave a history from the 1800s, talking about how it was almost the alcohol industry leaders versus the hemp growers. So bringing it into 2020 or the last 10 years or so, how has lobbying work been for you in Zambia with regard to pushing the agenda?
It's been terrible. You know, when I announced this policy in 2013, I was extremely ridiculed. Everyone, even kids, would talk about a lot of rubbish about me. But I knew I was right. You know, I knew I was right. And I know...
Do you still have this conviction?
Yeah. But I mean, that's why I'm able to proudly talk about it. And I've always been very proud about the agenda.
You've been consistent.
Yes, because I knew this is the right thing to do. And then also, history has shown me that good things don't just come easily on the table. You need to fight for them. And even the great scientists who came up with very good notions about certain things, they were laughed at. Galileo, for example. Right. Galileo, the father of physics, was nearly executed for suggesting that the world is round. And after doing all the experiments, they said, no, this earth we're talking about is round, and actually, it's not the sun that goes around the earth, but it's the earth So now that looked very controversial, and for a lot of years, his ideas were. He was only forgiven, I think, by Pope John
Much
Paul.
later.
Pope John Paul II in 1980 something, 1982. That's when he was forgiven from 300 years ago. You know, that is how it is. Even in Einstein.
So this is the path that essentially
So
you don't
this
mind.
you know, great ideas
Take time.
take time for people to comprehend, and that's why I never bothered myself. And now these guys who come back to me, even Jesus. Can you imagine when Jesus died? There were only 5 people around his grave. 5, I think, women and probably a couple of men. And you don't understand? And he had just a few disciples. Today, how many Christians do you have around the world? About 3 billion followers of Jesus. At the time, everyone ran away from him. Only those women who were so courageous to be by his side, to visit even his grave. You understand? But that great idea, which Jesus promoted, today, a third of the population of the world, almost 3 billion, are followers, dedicated followers of Jesus Christ. So that's how great ideas. Even Karl Marx.
Okay. Well,
Karl Marx.
I will
Karl
have
Marx.
to cut you
Karl
short
Marx. At the
Karl
time he
Marx.
died, only 50 people were by his graveside. But 50 years down the line, the whole world, half the world, was socialist, communist. You understand?
Well,
so anyway.
Now, if you've just joined us, you are watching Talk With, and we are talking with Peter SINKAMBA, who is the president of the Green Party. And let's get deep into politics now, or let's touch on that. So the current state of our country, when we look at everything happening with regard to the economy, social as well as political, what do you make of the current state of Zambia?
Well, maybe we start from the social point. Socially, I think we are in big problems, and aggravated by COVID-19. You know, the poverty situation in the country is somewhere around 69-70%. But with this COVID pandemic, and if we continue at this kind of level for the next 1 year, 2 years, it will be terrible for our people. Because most of the social sectors will be seriously affected. I'm talking about health delivery. The government, I think, government will be seriously affected. You heard what the Minister of Finance was saying a couple of weeks ago, that the budget deficit was somewhere around 17 billion kwacha out of 126 billion. So that kind of level of deficit is huge. Okay. Number 2, we have heard that most of these donor countries have just forgiven us to pay interest up to December.
But after that,